Silas Mercer had killed 11 men. He knew the exact number because he kept count. In a notebook, small, leather-bound, tucked in the bottom of his rucksack where nobody would ever find it. 11 names, 11 faces, 11 sets of eyes that stopped seeing. 3 at Normandy, the beach, where the
This should
sand turned
stabilize
red
the
and
cellular
stayed
structure.
red for
The
days.
pain is receding.
Where
Your
the
skill is
water ran
evident.
pink
Good.
with blood
Rest now.
and the screaming never stopped
Gently now.
until there was
They need
nobody
space
left to
to grow.
scream.
Like
5
this?
at Bastogne,
Perfect. Now cover
in the
them.
snow.
They will grow
Where the
big.
cold killed as many as the bullets. Where frozen corpses became landmarks. Where you stopped thinking of the dead as people and started thinking of them as obstacles to navigate around. 2 during the push into Germany, a farmhouse outside Cologne. Brothers, he thought. They looked alike. Same nose, same eyes, same expression of surprise when Silas's M1 Garand put rounds through their chests. They'd been defending their home. Silas was following orders. Neither fact made them any less dead. And one, the last one, April 19th, 1945, Berlin, a kid, maybe 17, maybe younger, carrying a Panzerfaust he barely knew how to hold. The rocket launcher was almost as big as he was. His hands shook. His eyes were wide with terror. He didn't want to be there any more than Silas did. Silas shot him anyway, because that's what soldiers do. They kill, and they count, and they carry those numbers for the rest of their lives. Silas remembered every single face, every single moment, the way their bodies fell, the sounds they made, the smell of blood and gunpowder and death that followed him across France and Belgium and Germany and back home to Wisconsin. But now walking up the dirt road to his farm after 18 months of absence, after discharged papers and a Purple Heart he didn't want and a Bronze Star he didn't deserve, Silas Mercer was about to discover that 3 more Germans were living in his house. A widow, a child, a baby, and everything he thought he knew about enemies, about debts, about the cost of war, and the price of peace was about to change. The farm looked smaller than he remembered. Funny how that works. You go away, you see the world, you see things that break you in ways you didn't know you could break. You come back, and the place that used to be everything, the place that used to be the entire universe, suddenly looks like just another patch of dirt with a roof on it. 180 acres. His father's land, his grandfather's before that. Mercer land going back to 1868, when the first Silas Mercer came west after the Civil War and decided Wisconsin was far enough from the fighting. Now it was his, because his father died in 1943. Heart gave out while plowing the south field. Just stopped. Fell off the tractor, dead before he hit the ground. And his mother, Ruth, who died in December of 1944, while Silas was freezing in a foxhole in Belgium eating snow because it was cleaner than the mud, and praying to a God he wasn't sure he believed in anymore that the German artillery would hit somewhere else, anywhere else. Heart attack, the telegram said. The telegram that caught up with him 3 weeks after they buried her in the frozen ground of Riverbend Cemetery next to his father. He hadn't been home since. Couldn't. The war didn't care that his mother was dead. The war needed bodies. American bodies to throw at German bodies until one side ran out. The Germans ran out first. Silas survived. He wasn't sure which was worse. Now here he was, October. The air smelled like wood smoke and rotting leaves and the particular kind of cold that came before winter. The kind that promised snow. The kind that said summer was a memory and spring was a long way off. The house sat at the end of a long driveway, white clapboard, 2 stories, porch running the length of the front. His father built that porch in 1928. Silas had helped. He was 10 years old, handed his father nails all summer, held boards steady, learned about right angles and level surfaces and the satisfaction of building something with your hands. The roof looked different. Silas stopped walking. 40 yards from the house. Just stopped and stared. The roof, the shingles, they were new, not brand new, but newer than they should be, newer than they had any right to be. The last time Silas saw this house, half the shingles were missing. Storm damage. Spring of 1944. His mother wrote about it in her letters. The ones that followed him across Europe. Said she'd get it fixed when she could afford it. When the war ended, when Silas came home. But she died before the war ended. And Silas came home to a roof that was whole, complete, every shingle in place. Someone had fixed it. Someone had been here. Someone had been living in his house. Silas's hand moved without thinking, down to his hip, where his M1911 used to sit. The weight of it, the cold metal against his ribs. The comfort of knowing that if things went wrong, you had 7 rounds of 45 caliber problem-solving capacity. But there was no pistol there. He'd turned it in. Fort Dix, September 20th, discharge. 3 weeks of paperwork and medical examinations and psychiatric evaluations where doctors with clean hands and soft voices asked him how he felt about killing people. Fine, Silas told them. I feel fine. He lied. They knew he lied. They discharged him anyway. The Army didn't want broken soldiers cluttering up the hospitals. They wanted beds for the next war, because there was always a next war. Still, his hand went to his hip, where the pistol should be, muscle memory. The kind that doesn't forget, the kind that wakes you up at 3 in the morning reaching for a weapon that isn't there to fight an enemy that isn't coming. He walked closer, slow, scanning. The way they taught him, the way that kept you alive when every doorway might hide a sniper and every pile of rubble might hide a mine. The fence posts along the property line. Those were new too. Straightened, reset, cedar, fresh cut. Somebody had done work here, real work. The kind that took time and skill and gave a damn. The garden, his mother's garden, behind the house. He could see the edge of it from here. Harvested, neat rows, turned soil ready for winter. Compost spread, professional. Someone had been working this land. Someone had been maintaining his property. Someone had been living in his house like they owned it. Silas's jaw tightened, his hands curled into fists. He'd walked for 3 days to get here, hitchhiked from Milwaukee to Madison. Caught a ride with a farmer hauling milk as far as Prairie to Sac. Walked the last 40 miles because there weren't any rides heading this far into farm country, and he didn't have money for a bus, and he was too proud to ask for charity. 3 days thinking about this moment, about coming home, about what home even meant anymore, about whether there was anything left here worth coming back to. He hadn't expected to find it occupied. The front door was closed, no lights in the windows. Middle of the afternoon, sun still high. If someone was here, they were being quiet, careful, hiding. Silas stepped onto the porch. The boards didn't creak. They used to creak, every single board. His mother used to say you couldn't sneak in after curfew because the porch would rat you out before you got to the door. The wood would sing your sins to anyone listening. But now, silence. Someone had fixed the boards, re-nailed them, leveled them, made them solid. Silas reached for the door handle, and the door opened before he touched it. What Silas Mercer experienced in that moment was something the Army psychiatrist at Fort Dix would later call dissociation, a psychological defense mechanism. The mind's way of protecting itself when reality becomes too much to process all at once. A moment where the brain looks at what the eyes are seeing and says, absolutely not. This cannot be happening. This does not compute, and just sort of stops, freezes, refuses to accept the input. Because standing in his doorway, wearing a dress that had been mended so many times the original fabric was barely visible, under layers of patches and repairs was a woman. Not just any woman, a German woman. Silas knew she was German before she said a word, knew it the way soldiers know things. Pattern recognition, threat assessment, the shape of her face, the color of her hair. Blonde, almost white in the afternoon sun. The way she stood, stiff, formal, European, and scared. She was absolutely terrified. In her arms a baby, maybe 6 months old, 8 months. Silas didn't know babies, never spent time around them. The child was wrapped in a blanket, blue, faded, worn thin. The woman held it close, protective, the way mothers hold children when there's danger. Behind her, barely visible in the dim interior of the house, another shape, smaller, a child, maybe 7 years old, maybe younger, blonde hair like her mother's. Same bone structure, same pale skin, holding something, a knife, kitchen knife, big one. The blade caught the light from the window. The woman's eyes met Silas's, blue, pale blue, the color of ice on Lake Michigan in January, the color of winter sky, the color of things that could kill you if you weren't careful. For 3 seconds, that felt like 3 hours. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The woman's hands tightened on the baby. The child behind her shifted her grip on the knife. Silas's hand twitched toward his empty holster. Then the woman spoke. Please. Her voice shook, trembled. The way voices do when you're trying very hard not to cry and not quite succeeding. Please, no hurt. We go soon. Broken English, heavy accent, the kind Silas had heard 1,000 times in POW camps, in interrogations, in the surrenders that came at the end, when the German army finally broke and the soldiers stopped fighting and started trying to survive. German, she was German, in his house, living in his house, like she had a right to be there. Silas's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. His brain was still processing, still trying to make sense of this, still trying to reconcile the image in front of him with everything he thought he knew about coming home. The woman shifted the baby to her other arm. The movement was careful, deliberate, slow, like she was trying very hard not to look threatening, like she knew exactly how dangerous this moment was. "We go," she said again, voice a little steadier now, fighting for control. "3 days, then we go, please. No police, no police." The words finally unlocked something in Silas's head, finally got his brain working again, finally pushed him from shock into anger. "Who the hell are you?" His voice came out rougher than he intended, hoarse. 3 days of walking and not much talking and a throat full of dust from dirt roads. The woman flinched, actually flinched, like she expected him to hit her. I am Greta Hoffman. This is Klaus." She looked down at the baby, then gestured behind her to the shadow with the knife. "My daughter, Annalise, we live here. 4 months. 4 months. 4 months these people had been living in his house." Silas did the math in his head, quick, automatic, the way soldiers do math, tactical math, survival math. 4 months ago was June. The war ended May 8th, 1945. That was 16 months ago, which meant this woman moved into his house while he was still in Europe, still processing German POWs in the camps outside Munich, still trying to figure out which prisoners were Wehrmacht and which were SS and which were just kids who'd been conscripted at 15 and didn't know anything except how to die, while his house sat empty and his mother lay dead in Riverbend Cemetery. This woman, this German woman, broke into his house and just moved in, made herself at home, like it was hers, like she had a right. Silas felt something hot rise in his chest. Anger, clean and pure and simple. The first simple emotion he'd felt in months. "You're squatting," he said. Not a question, a statement, an accusation. Greta nodded, slow, cautious, like she was agreeing to something that might get her killed, but lying would be worse. "Yes, the correct word is squatting. I am sorry, I did not know. I thought house was empty, abandoned." Her English was careful, precise, like she'd learned it from a book and was trying to remember every rule, every pronunciation, every conjugation. "This is my house," Silas said. "Yes, I know now. I'm sorry." Sorry, she was sorry. Silas looked past her, into the house, his father's table where they had eaten 1,000 meals, his mother's chairs where she'd sat and read and knitted and waited for letters from her son at war. The fireplace where somebody had hung children's clothes to dry, small clothes, patched, worn so thin you could see through them in places. The poverty hung in the air like smoke. These people had nothing, less than nothing, and they'd taken his house because they had nowhere else to go. "Where are you from?" Silas asked, trying to understand, trying to make this make sense. "Berlin. We come from Berlin. East Berlin, Soviet zone." The way she said Soviet, like the word tasted bad, like it left poison on her tongue. "Refugee, yes, refugee program, April. We arrived New York. They send us to Chicago, but Chicago." She stopped, swallowed, her throat worked. "Not safe for Germans." Silas knew what that meant. He'd read the papers, seen the headlines, anti-German riots, beatings, vandalism, property destroyed, people killed. The war was over, but the hate wasn't. Wouldn't be for a long time. Maybe never. Germans in America, enemy aliens. Targets for anyone who'd lost someone in the war, anyone who needed someone to blame, anyone who couldn't let go of the fight. "So you came here," Silas said. "We have nowhere else. House was empty, far from town, nobody close, nobody watching. I think maybe owner not come back. Many soldiers not come back. Many houses stay empty now." She said it matter of fact, without emotion, like she'd already accepted that people died and didn't come home and the world moved on without them. Like she'd seen enough death to know exactly what it looked like. Silas stared at her, at this woman who'd lost enough to recognize loss in others, who'd survived enough to know survival when she saw it. Behind her, the little girl, Annalise, Anna. She hadn't moved, still standing in the doorway to what used to be Silas's mother's bedroom, still holding the knife, still watching Silas with eyes that were too old for her face, eyes that had seen things children shouldn't see. "Put the knife down," Silas said. Not harsh, just tired, so tired. The girl looked at her mother. Greta nodded, said something in German, quick, soft musical, the language Silas had learned to hate because it was the language of the enemy, the language spoken by men trying to kill him. Anna lowered the knife, didn't let go of it, just lowered it, kept it ready, just in case. Smart kid. "I should call the sheriff," Silas said, testing, watching for the reaction. Greta didn't argue, didn't plead, didn't beg. She just nodded. "Yes, you should. We will go. They will take us. Put us in camp maybe, or send us back to Germany, to Soviet zone, where we run from." The way she said it, flat, empty, resigned, like she'd already died once and was just waiting to see if it would happen again. Like survival was something that happened to other people, and she was just along for the ride until the universe decided she'd had enough. "Anna will cry," Greta continued, voice quiet, matter of fact. "Klaus will cry. I will not cry because German widows do not cry where Americans can see. We have pride, yes, even when we have nothing else. We have pride." Widow, she was a widow, of course she was. Every third woman in Europe was a widow. The war had killed 60 million people. Soldiers, civilians, men, women, children, everyone. "We will leave," Greta said quietly. "We will die somewhere between here and wherever somewhere is. Winter is coming. We have no money, no family, no friends. But you will have your house back. Clean, fixed, better than before. This is fair trade, yes." She said it the way someone describes the weather. Simple, factual, inevitable. Like death was just another thing that happened, and you accepted it and moved on. Except you couldn't move on when you were dead. Silas looked at her, really looked. She was maybe 30, 32, thin, too thin. The kind of thin that came from not eating enough for too long, from missing meals, from giving your food to your children, from surviving on hope and stubbornness and nothing else. Her dress hung loose on her frame. Her cheekbones were sharp. Her wrists were narrow. The baby in her arms probably weighed as much as she did. Her left arm was bandaged. White cloth, clean, but there was blood seeping through. Fresh blood, dark red against the pale fabric. A spreading stain. "You're bleeding," Silas said. Greta glanced down at her arm like she'd forgotten about it. Like pain was so normal she didn't notice it anymore. "There's nothing. Doesn't look like nothing. I will fix it later." "You'll fix it now." The words came out before Silas could stop them. Sharp, automatic, command voice. The same tone he'd used on privates who tried to walk around with untreated wounds because they didn't want to bother the medics, or they thought they were tough enough to handle it, or they were just too stupid to know that infection killed as surely as bullets. Greta stared at him, confusion in her eyes, like she couldn't understand why he cared. Like American soldiers weren't supposed to care about German wounds. "You are not calling sheriff." Silas didn't answer, couldn't answer, didn't know how to answer. Because the smart thing, the right thing, the legal thing was to call Sheriff Crenshaw and have these people removed. Trespassing, breaking and entering, squatting. But looking at this woman, at these children, at the blood on the bandage and the fear in their eyes, and the way they held themselves like they were ready to run or fight or die depending on what happened in the next 10 seconds. Looking at them. Silas couldn't do it, couldn't make the call. Not yet. Instead, he stepped past her, into the house. His house. It smelled different. Not bad, just different. Clean. Soap. Something cooking. Potatoes maybe? And bread. Fresh bread. The yeast smell. The warm smell. The smell his mother used to make when she baked on Sundays. When was the last time this house smelled like bread? The interior was exactly as he remembered it, and completely different. Same furniture, same layout, same paintings on the walls, same photographs on the mantel, but everything was clean, scrubbed, spotless. The floor, the windows, the curtains, his mother's curtains. Someone had washed them, mended them where they'd torn, hemmed them where they'd frayed. The table was set, 2 plates, 2 cups, 1 small bowl for the baby, cloth napkins folded neatly, silverware that had been polished until it shone, like they'd been expecting someone for dinner, like this was a home and not just a house where people hid. Silas walked to the table, set his rucksack down, the weight of it, 40 pounds, everything he owned, everything he'd carried across Europe and back. Greta hadn't moved from the doorway, still holding Klaus, still scared, still waiting to see what he'd do. Anna stayed by her mother, knife still in hand, eyes locked on Silas, tracking his every movement. "Sit down," Silas said. "I should sit down." Not angry, not threatening, just final. The voice that meant this wasn't a request. Greta sat, carefully, slowly, like she was lowering herself onto glass that might break. She shifted Klaus to her right arm, extended her left arm onto the table. The bandaged one, the bleeding one. Anna moved to her mother's side, put the knife on the table, within reach, kept her hand on it, still ready, still smart. Silas dug through his rucksack, found what he was looking for, a small canvas pouch, medical kit, standard issue, army medic kit. He'd carried it since Normandy, through France and Belgium and Germany, through battles and surrenders and everything in between. Never went anywhere without it. Too many times he'd needed it and didn't have it. Watched men bleed out because there was no medic and no supplies and nothing to do but hold their hand while they died. He didn't want to watch anyone else die, not if he could help it. "Let me see your arm," Silas said. Greta hesitated, then slowly, carefully, she laid her arm on the table, palm up, vulnerable. The bandage was soaked through, dark red in the center, spreading, fresh bleeding. Not good. Silas pulled a chair closer, sat down, started unwrapping the cloth. His hands were steady. Trained, the medics in Belgium had taught him. Bastogne. When there weren't enough doctors and every sergeant had to learn battlefield medicine or watch their men die, he'd learned. Fast, out of necessity. "How did this happen?" he asked. "Fence, barbed wire." "When 5 days ago." 5 days, Silas looked up at her. "Why didn't you see a doctor?" Greta didn't answer, just looked at him. Those pale blue eyes, tired, so tired. She didn't need to answer. He knew why. Because German refugees didn't see doctors, couldn't afford doctors, weren't welcome at doctors. Because doctors asked questions, and questions meant authorities, and authorities meant deportation. Because these people were hiding, surviving, staying invisible. Silas pulled away the last layer of bandage and stopped. The wound was bad, deep, ragged, running from her wrist to halfway up her forearm, 8 inches, maybe 9. The kind of cut you get from climbing over barbed wire in a hurry. The kind of cut you get running from something. The edges were angry red, inflamed, hot to the touch even through his fingers, infected. Not badly yet, but getting there. "How did you really get this?" Silas asked quietly. Greta looked at him. Then at her daughter, Anna, who was watching with those 2 old eyes, who understood more than she should. Then back at Silas. "Chicago," she said finally. "There was. Riot. Anti-German. They find us at church, Lutheran church. We think we are safe there, but they come anyway. Windows break, people yelling, throwing rocks, bottles." She paused, took a breath. "They find us, in basement. We run, out back door. There is fence, barbed wire. I climb, cut arm. Anna climbs. I help her. We run. We hide, in boxcar, train. Come here. To Wisconsin. Walk to this house. Far from people. Safe. A riot. She'd been running from a ma, in America, in Chicago, in 1946. The war was over, but the fighting wasn't. Silas felt something twist in his gut, something uncomfortable. Something that felt like shame, but he didn't know why he should feel ashamed. He hadn't been in Chicago, hadn't thrown rocks, hadn't chased refugees. But he was American, and Americans had done this. His people had done this. "This is going to need stitches," Silas said. "I have needle and thread. I have better." He pulled out his suture kit, army issue, sterile needles, surgical thread, alcohol, bandages, everything he needed. He'd stitched up more wounds than he could count. Soldiers, civilians, French resistance fighters, German POWs who'd surrendered and needed medical attention because the Geneva Convention said you had to treat wounded prisoners. Even the enemy deserved to not die from infection. "This is going to hurt," Silas said. "I know. You want something to bite on?" "No." "You sure?" "Yes, I am nurse. Was nurse. Berlin. Field hospital. I know what pain is. I can handle this." Nurse. She was a nurse. That explained the calm, the steadiness, the way she sat there with an infected wound and didn't complain. She'd seen worse. Much worse. Silas nodded. He cleaned the wound first. Alcohol. Poured it straight on. Greta's jaw clenched. Her free hand gripped the edge of the table. Knuckles white. but she didn't make a sound. Klaus started to fuss. Greta rocked him automatically, still not looking away from Silas's hands, watching every movement, assessing, professional. Anna crept closer, watching too, fascinated, not scared of the blood, not scared of the needle, just watching, learning. Silas threaded the needle, small, curved, surgical. "Tell me if you need me to stop," he said. "I will not need you to stop." She was right. He stitched the wound closed. 11 stitches, small, precise, close together, the way the medics taught him, the way that minimized scarring, the way that promoted healing. Greta didn't make a sound, not one, not even when he hit the deeper tissue, not even when the needle went through flesh that was inflamed and tender and had to hurt like hell. Her free hand stayed clamped on the table. Her breathing stayed controlled. Her face stayed calm. Like she'd learned a long time ago that crying didn't help, that screaming didn't stop the pain, that you endured because endurance was all you had. When Silas finished, he wrapped the arm in clean bandages from his kit. Tight. Professional. The way you wrap a wound you want to heal clean. "Keep it dry," he said. "Change the dressing twice a day. If it gets worse, if you see red lines, if you get fever, you need a real doctor." "Thank you." The words were quiet, almost a whisper. Like she wasn't used to being helped. Like kindness was foreign and strange, and she didn't know what to do with it. Silas looked at her. At this woman who'd just sat through 11 stitches without flinching, who'd run from a riot, who'd climbed barbed wire fences, who'd kept her children alive through things he could only imagine. "You were a nurse," he said. Not a question, a statement. Greta blinked, surprised. "How you know?" "The way you didn't react. You've seen worse, done worse. This was nothing." A pause, then, "Yes, Berlin, field hospital, during bombings. I worked there 3 years, 1942 to 1945. 3 years, in a field hospital, in Berlin, during the Allied bombing campaign. The same bombing campaign Silas's unit had supported. The same bombs that fell on that city night after night, turning it into rubble, into ash, into hell on earth. This woman had been there, on the receiving end, picking up the pieces, stitching together what was left. Silas didn't need to ask what she'd seen. He already knew, had seen the aftermath, had walked through Berlin in May of 45 when the city finally fell, seen the destruction, the bodies, the survivors who looked like ghosts. She'd been there for all of it. "Mama," Anna's voice, small, uncertain. The first time Silas had heard her speak English, Greta said something in German, soft, reassuring. The kind of thing mothers showers say to children when things are scary but they're trying to pretend they're not. Anna nodded, but didn't put the knife down, didn't stop watching Silas, still didn't trust him, still smart. Silas packed up his medical kit, put it back in his rucksack, zipped it closed. "I'll make tea," Greta said suddenly, standing, moving to the stove, still holding Klaus. The baby had fallen asleep against her shoulder, small, peaceful, unaware. "You don't have to. You must be tired from walking. Tea helps. I make good tea." She moved around the kitchen like she owned it, knew where everything was, put a kettle on the stove, added wood to the fire, pulled down cups, measured tea leaves. Comfortable, practiced, familiar. This was her kitchen now, her home, even if it wasn't supposed to be. The stove was warm, something was already cooking. A pot, potatoes and something green, cabbage maybe. The smell was simple, clean. Poor people food, filling but not fancy. Greta poured the tea. 2 cups, steam rising, the smell of herbs, mint, something else. She set 1 cup in front of Silas, sat down across from him with the other, Klaus still asleep on her shoulder. Silas picked up the cup, looked at it. The tea was dark, strong, but not bitter, something sweet in it, something that made it smell like home. "Honey," Greta said, answering the unasked question. "And mint, from garden, your mother planted, I think. Americans drink tea like punishment, should taste like reward." She said it simply, stating a fact, not judging, just observing. Silas took a sip. It was good. Better than anything he'd had in 18 months. Better than the coffee at Fort Dix. Better than the stuff they served in the mess halls. Better than the bitter French cafe that tasted like dirt. This tasted like peace, if peace had a flavor. 4 months, Silas said. "You've been here 4 months. Why this house?" Greta sat across from him, quiet for a moment, thinking, choosing her words. Was empty, she said finally, far from village. Nobody close enough to notice smoke, nobody watching. Safe. She paused. And has garden, behind house, already growing, potatoes, carrots, onions, beans. Someone plant them and leave, I think. Maybe person who plant them not come back. War takes more than gives back. She was talking about his mother. About the garden Ruth Mercer planted in the spring of 1944, right before she died. The garden, she said, would feed Silas when he came home. But she didn't live long enough to see him come home. Didn't live long enough to harvest what she planted. My mother planted that garden, Silas said quietly. Greta went very still. Her cup stopped halfway to her lips. Her eyes widened slightly. I am sorry, I did not. She died, December 1944. I was in Belgium, Bastogne. Silence, the kind of silence that sits between people who both lost too much, who know what grief tastes like, who understand that sorry doesn't fix anything, but sometimes you say it anyway because what else is there to say? Greta didn't offer condolences, didn't say she was sorry for his loss, didn't do the thing people do when they don't know what to say and just fill the air with words. She just sat there, being quiet, the way people who understand grief can be quiet together. The way shared loss creates a language that doesn't need words. After a long moment, she spoke. My husband, Gustav, Hauptmann, Captain, Wehrmacht artillery. He was soldier. He died in war. 1945, March. Not in battle, in prison camp. American prison camp, Indiana. After war was almost over. March 1945, American POW camp, Indiana. Silas's blood went cold, because he knew. Suddenly, terribly, he knew. Camp Atterbury, he said, voice hollow, not a question. Greta's eyes snapped to his, shocked. How could he know? Yes. How you, oh. I was there, February to March. Guard duty, 3 weeks while my unit rotated. The world tilted, shifted, rearranged itself into a pattern Silas didn't want to see. Camp Atterbury, Indiana. February 1945. He'd been there. Guarding German POWs, hundreds of them, captured during the Battle of the Bulge, during the push into Germany, surrendered soldiers, defeated, broken, waiting to go home. And there'd been a fire, kitchen fire in the barracks, grease fire, spread fast, trapped 3 American guards. A German officer organized the prisoners, led them in, pulled the guards out, saved their lives, could have escaped in the chaos, could have run, could have tried, didn't. Went back into the fire to make sure everyone got out, hauled out 2 more prisoners who were unconscious from smoke, kept going until everyone was safe. That officer, Captain, Wehrmacht artillery, Gustav Hoffmann. Silas remembered him now. Quiet, reserved, spoke decent English. Blue eyes, blonde hair, mid-30s, the kind of soldier you could respect even though he was the enemy. Silas had been one of the guards, one of the 3 who would have died if Gustav hadn't organized the rescue. He'd thanked the man, shook his hand, said he owed him one. 2 weeks later, Gustav was dead, died from injuries sustained in the fire, lung damage from smoke inhalation, infection, pneumonia, died in the camp hospital. They'd buried him in the POW section of the camp cemetery. American flag on the coffin because he'd saved American lives. Military honors because some debts transcend nations. Silas had attended the funeral, stood in the cold March rain, listened to the chaplain say words about sacrifice and bravery and doing the right thing even when it's hard. And now he was sitting in his kitchen, drinking tea with that man's widow, looking at that man's children. The universe had a sick sense of humor. He saved my life, Silas said quietly. Your husband, he saved me, and 2 other guards. Kitchen fire. February. Greta's hand went to her mouth, her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. German widows don't cry where Americans can see. She'd said that. He write me letter. Before he die, they give it to Red Cross. Red Cross bring to me in Berlin. Month later, April, when Soviets come. Her voice was barely a whisper. He tell me about fire, about choosing to help even when helping means staying prisoner. He say some things more important than freedom, like knowing you did right thing, like saving lives instead of taking them. She stopped, took a shaky breath. He say, if I die here, I die doing something good. Tell Anna I love her. Tell her Papa was hero, even if nobody remember. Silence, long, heavy, full of things that couldn't be said and didn't need to be. Silas sat there, cup in his hands, looking at this woman, this widow, this mother, whose husband saved his life, whose husband died in an American prison camp, whose family ended up in his house by sheer random chance, by accident, by fate, by whatever force moves the universe in ways we can't predict. And he realized, sitting there, looking at her, at Anna, at sleeping Klaus, he realized he couldn't make them leave, couldn't call the sheriff, couldn't turn them out, because he owed Gustav Hoffman a debt, a life debt, the kind you can't repay to a dead man, but you can pay forward to his family. 1 week, Silas heard himself say. Greta looked up, confused, hope and fear fighting in her eyes. What? 1 week, you can stay 1 week, that's it, that's all I'm offering. We can stay. 1 week, 7 days, you keep the house clean. You don't cause trouble, you stay out of sight. After that, we'll see. Maybe you'll have somewhere else to go by then. Greta stared at him like he'd just offered her the moon and the stars and every impossible thing. Yes, we understand. Thank you so. Don't thank me. This isn't charity. I don't know what it is, but it's 1 week. That's all. 1 week is better than no weeks, Greta said quietly. We accept. We will be good guests. You will not know we are here. Silas nodded, stood up, picked up his rucksack. I'll take the upstairs bedroom, the small one. You and the kids keep the main bedroom. Stay out of my way. I'll stay out of yours. Yes, of course. He walked to the stairs, stopped, turned back. And Greta, yes, change that bandage tonight and in the morning. Like I said, infection kills as sure as bullets. I will, thank you. Silas went upstairs, to the small bedroom that used to be his. Narrow bed, single window, door that locked from the inside. He closed the door, set his rucksack down, sat on the bed, and wondered what the hell he'd just done. The first week was uncomfortable in the way that everything new and wrong is uncomfortable, like wearing someone else's boots. They technically function, they get you where you need to go, but they feel strange at every step. They rub in the wrong places, they don't fit quite right, and you spend all day aware that they're not yours. That's what living with 3 Germans felt like. Silas woke before dawn, every morning, like clockwork, 5:30. Sometimes 5. His body wouldn't let him sleep past that. The army had trained it into him, and the training never left, even when he wanted it to. But Greta woke earlier. He'd come downstairs at dawn and find her already working, already doing the 1,000 small tasks that keeping a household alive required, sharpening kitchen knives at the whetstone his father used to use, mending clothes with needle and thread so fine he could barely see it, feeding Klaus, changing him, keeping him quiet so he wouldn't wake anyone, preparing breakfast, oatmeal, coffee, sometimes bread if they had flour. She never made conversation, never said good morning, never acknowledged him beyond a small nod. Neither did he. They moved around each other like 2 cats sharing territory by pretending the other one didn't exist, by staying in their own spaces, by avoiding eye contact, by making themselves as small and invisible as possible. It worked for about 3 days. Then Anna decided she'd had enough of silence. Why you breathe so loud when you sleep? Silas was drinking his morning coffee. Black, strong, the way he liked it, the way his father drank it, the way soldiers drank it when they needed to wake up fast and stay awake. He choked. Coffee went down the wrong pipe. He coughed, sputtered, set the cup down hard, looked up. Anna stood in the doorway to the kitchen, hair uncombed, still in her nightdress, bare feet, looking at him with those 2 serious eyes like she'd just asked the most normal question in the world. What? You breathe loud. At night, like. She thought about it, made a sound, a sort of rattling wheeze, deep in her throat. It was a surprisingly accurate imitation of snoring. I don't snore, Silas said. Yes, you do. No, I don't. Mama says you snore. I hear you snore. Klaus hear you snore, but he is baby, so he does not care. House hears you snore. Only you not hear you snore because you are asleep. The logic was airtight, annoying, but airtight. Silas set down his coffee cup, carefully, fighting the urge to smile despite himself. That's called snoring. Adults do it. It's normal. Mama not snore. Klaus not snore. Only you snore. Maybe you are sick. Maybe you have curse. Father Steinberg at church in Chicago say soldiers sometimes bring curses home from war. Bad spirits follow them, make them sick, make them breathe loud. Silas had no idea who Father Steinberg was, but he was starting to understand why Greta spent half her day looking exhausted. "I'm not cursed," he said firmly. "I just snore. It's normal. Lots of people do it. If normal, why Mama not do it? Because not everyone snores. So is not normal. Look, can we not have this conversation before I finish my coffee?" Anna considered this, tilted her head, studied him like he was a puzzle she was trying to solve. "Okay, we have after coffee. How about we don't have it at all? But then you never know if cursed. How is? And if cursed, you need priest. And priest costs money. Better to know now before curse gets worse." "I'm not, Annalise." Greta's voice cut through the kitchen like a blade. Sharp, quiet, absolute. Anna's mouth snapped shut. She looked at her mother. Greta stood in the doorway to the bedroom, Klaus on her hip. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were hard. The kind of hard that meant this conversation was over. She said something in German. 3 words. Fast. Clipped. The tone a mother uses when patience has run out. Anna's shoulders slumped. "Yes, Mama." She turned and scurried away, back to the bedroom, but not before Silas caught the grin on her face. She wasn't asking because she was curious. She was testing, seeing how far she could push the strange American before he pushed back, seeing what the boundaries were, seeing if he was dangerous or just grumpy. Smart kid. Greta watched her daughter disappear, then looked at Silas. "I am sorry, she is. Children do not understand boundaries sometimes." "It's fine." "It is not fine. She should not bother you. We are guests. We should be quiet." "Really, it's fine. I've been called worse things than a loud breather." Greta's mouth twitched. Almost. Almost a smile. The first hint of one Silas had seen. Then it was gone, replaced by the careful neutral mask she wore. "Still, I will speak with her. She will not do again. Don't let her ask questions. Better than sitting in silence pretending we're not all uncomfortable." Greta looked at him for a long moment, like she was trying to figure out if he meant it or if he was just being polite, trying to decide if this was permission or a trap. Finally, she nodded. "Coffee is ready, if you want more." "Thanks." She turned to go, back to the bedroom, to Klaus, to the small space they occupied, then stopped, turned back. Silas. It was the first time she'd used his name, the first time she'd called him anything other than sir or mister or nothing at all. "Yeah, you do snore, very loud, but I think it's not curse. I think it's just how you sleep, how your body is. Some people snore, some people do not. Is normal. Anna does not understand this yet." And then she did smile, just a little, just for a second, before she turned and walked away, leaving Silas sitting there, holding his coffee, almost smiling himself, despite everything. Silas found Anna in his mother's garden. It was mid-morning, frost still on the ground, late October, the kind of cold that bit the back of your throat when you breathed, that made your fingers ache, that promised snow was coming soon. Anna stood in the middle of the garden bed, holding a small leather pouch, looking down at it like it held something precious, something important. Silas stopped, watched for a second, trying to figure out what she was doing. "What are you doing?" he called. Anna looked up. No guilt, no fear, just matter of fact. "Planting." Like this should be obvious. Like standing in a frozen garden in late October was the most normal thing in the world. "Planting what?" She opened the pouch, held it out so he could see. Inside, seeds, apple seeds, small, brown, dried. And Silas's heart stopped, because he knew those seeds, knew exactly where they came from, knew exactly what they meant. Those were seeds from his mother's apple trees, the old orchard on the far edge of the property. The trees his grandfather planted, the trees that produced the best apples in the county. Sweet, crisp, perfect for pies. The seeds Silas had collected before he shipped out. Put in a leather pouch, kept in his rucksack, carried through France and Belgium and Germany, through battles and surrenders and everything in between. The last piece of his mother he had left, the last physical thing, the only thing. He'd planned to plant them someday, when things were settled, when he had time, when he felt ready, but he'd kept them in the pouch, safe, protected, waiting. And now this German kid was standing in his garden holding them. "Where did you get those?" His voice came out sharper than he meant, harder, almost angry. Anna blinked, surprised by the tone, but not scared, just confused. Your room, under bed. I find them when I clean. You went through my things. Yes, to clean. Mama says we must keep house very clean. Show we are good guests. I clean under bed, find pouch, open it, find seeds. Her logic was simple, direct, childlike. But it didn't change the fact that she'd gone through his personal belongings, found something private, taken it. Those are mine, Silas said, walking closer. They're important. You can't just take them. I know are yours is why I plant them. Seeds cannot stay in bag forever. Must go in ground, or they forget how to grow. She said it so simply, so obviously, like it was the most basic fact in the world. Seeds in bag, seeds in ground, good. What's complicated about that? I was waiting for the right time, Silas said. Anna tilted her head, studied him, those two old eyes looking right through him. Time is now time. Mama says now time is only time that matters. Past time is just memory. Future time is just worry. Now time is when things happen, when planting happens. She was 7 years old, 7, and she was talking like a philosopher, like she understood things about time and life and seizing moments that most adults never figured out. Do you even know how to plant apple seeds? Silas asked. Anna's face lit up. Actual joy, pure, unfiltered, the first real smile he'd seen from her. No, but you can teach. Teaching is sharing knowledge. Sharing knowledge makes tribes stronger, makes family stronger. We're not family. The words came out before Silas could stop them. Automatic, defensive. True. Anna's smile faded, a little, but didn't disappear completely. Mama says family is people who choose to stay, not people who have to stay. We stay here. You let us stay. You choose not to send us away. Is small family, but still counts. Silas looked at this kid, this 7-year-old German refugee kid holding his mother's apple seeds, standing in his mother's garden. Talking about family like she understood what it meant even though her father was dead and her country was destroyed and she was living in a stranger's house in a foreign land. And he felt something crack inside him. Not break, just crack. The way ice cracks when you step on it but doesn't quite give way yet. Fine, he heard himself say. I'll teach you, but you do exactly what I say. These seeds are important. We're only going to get one chance at this. Anna's smile came back full force. Brilliant, genuine. Yes, we make trees, good trees, trees that last forever. They spent the next hour in the garden, Silas showing Anna how deep to dig. 6 inches, no more, no less. How to space the seeds, 3 feet apart. Give them room to grow, room to spread their roots. How to mark where each one went. Small stakes, so you didn't forget and step on them later. So you could find them in spring when they sprouted. How to water, not too much, not too little, just enough to keep the soil damp. How to protect them from frost. Mulch, straw, leaves, anything to insulate. How to hope without expecting. Because some seeds grow and some don't. Because nature doesn't care about your plans. Because all you can do is try. Anna listened, really listened, paid attention to every word, asked questions, smart questions. Why 6 inches? Why not 5 or 7? 6 inches is deep enough to protect from frost, but shallow enough for the shoot to reach sunlight. How do you know if seed is good or bad? You don't, not until you plant it. Some seeds look perfect and never grow. Some seeds look dead and sprout anyway. You just have to try. What if frost kills them? Then we try again next year. That's all you can do. Keep trying. She absorbed it all, remembered everything. When Silas showed her something once, she got it. Muscle memory, visual learning, the kind of intelligence that didn't need repetition. The kid was sharp. Greta watched from the kitchen window. Silas could feel her eyes on them, could sense her presence, watching, assessing, making sure her daughter was safe, making sure this wasn't a trick, making sure the American soldier who'd killed 11 Germans wasn't going to hurt her child. When he finally looked up, she was still there, just watching. Their eyes met across the distance, through the glass, and something passed between them. Some kind of understanding, some kind of acknowledgement. Greta nodded, once, small, almost invisible. Permission, or gratitude, or just recognition. Silas nodded back, then turned back to Anna and the seeds and the hope they represented. Small green shoots that would someday be trees, that would someday produce apples, that would someday feed people who weren't even born yet. That was worth something. That had to be worth something. The village found out. Not because Silas told anyone. He'd been avoiding town, avoiding people, buying supplies from the general store with minimal conversation and getting out fast. But small towns don't work that way. Small towns are living organisms. Information spreads through them the way blood moves through veins. Invisible, inevitable, fast. And Lyle Hutchins was the kind of man who noticed things, who paid attention, who kept track of his neighbors because that's what neighbors did in farm country. He arrived mid-afternoon carrying a basket of bread and approximately 8,000 questions he didn't know how to ask. Silas saw him coming up the drive, saw the truck, recognized it, felt his stomach drop, because this was it. This was the moment everything got complicated, everything got public, everything got dangerous. He met Lyle at the porch before he could get to the door, before he could see inside, before anything got worse. Lyle, Silas. They shook hands, firm, brief, the way men did, the way neighbors did, the ritual of greeting that meant something even when you didn't know what. Lyle was 48, broad shoulders, farmer's hands, calloused, rough, the kind of hands that came from 40 years of hard work. Good man, salt of the earth. All the things people said about Midwestern farmers who worked their land and paid their taxes and went to church on Sundays. He'd also lost his younger brother at Normandy. First wave, Omaha Beach, 22 years old, landed in the water, never made it to the sand. Drowned in 6 feet of water, weighed down by 60 pounds of gear, while machine guns tore apart everyone around him. Lyle never got over it. How could you heard you were back, Lyle said, careful, neutral. Figured I'd bring some bread. Dorothy made it. She says welcome home. Tell her thanks. That's real nice of her. Will do. Lyle handed over the basket. Fresh bread, still warm. The smell was incredible. Yeast and butter and home. Then, his eyes drifted past Silas, into the house through the screen door, where Anna had just appeared. She ducked under Silas's arm to see who was visiting. Curious, unafraid. All blonde hair and pale skin, and very obviously German features. 7 years old, small, thin, holding a rag doll that looked like it had been mended 100 times. Lyle's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, recognition, understanding, horror. Silas. His voice was barely a whisper, strangled, like the words were fighting their way out. Is that a kid? Yes. A German kid? Yes. Lyle took a step back, then another. The basket of bread hung forgotten in Silas's hands. His face had gone pale. His hands were shaking slightly. Silas, what have you done? Anna tilted her head, studying Lyle the way she studied everything, with that intense focus, that analytical gaze. He has big fear face, she observed in English, slow, careful, accented, like dog when thunder comes. Why he is afraid. Greta appeared behind Anna, moved fast, silent, pulled her daughter back gently but firmly. Inside Liebling, now. Anna went, but kept watching through the window, eyes wide, trying to understand. Greta met Lyle's eyes, nodded once, polite, careful. Good afternoon, sir. Her English was better than Anna's, more practiced, but still accented, still clearly German. Lyle's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. He looked at Silas, looked at Greta, looked back at Silas. That's a German woman. In your house. In your mother's house. Her name is Greta. I don't care what her name is. She's German. They're German. What the hell are they doing in your house? Silas felt something cold settle in his stomach. Knew this was coming. Knew it would be bad. But hearing the anger in Lyle's voice, the betrayal, the rage, it was worse than he expected. They needed a place to stay, Silas said. Quiet, calm, trying to de-escalate. So you're running a boarding house for Krauts now? The word hung in the air like smoke, like poison. Krauts. Silas's jaw tightened, his hands curled into fists around the basket handle. They're refugees, widow and 2 kids. They needed help. I don't give a damn if she's the widow of Jesus Christ himself. She's German. They killed my brother Silas. They killed him and thousands like him, boys from this town, boys we grew up with. And you're letting them live in your house. She's not the one who killed them. She's one of them. That's enough. She's a civilian. She's the enemy. The war's over, Lyle. Is it really because last I checked, having Germans move into American homes sounds a hell of a lot like we lost. Sounds like they won after all. Silas stepped off the porch, putting himself between Lyle and the house, between Lyle and the women and children inside. She's not invading. She's surviving by stealing your house, by living in an empty building nobody was using. It's still your house, your mother's house, your father's house, and you're just letting them have it, letting them take it. For now, yes. For now, Silas, do you hear yourself? These people, their country, their army killed 60 million people. 60 million, my brother was one of them. Your mother died because of them. Silas's hands tightened. His voice dropped. Dangerous, low. My mother died of a heart attack because she was terrified you'd never come home, because of the war, because of them, and now you're playing house with the people who caused it. Greta didn't cause anything. She was a nurse in a hospital, saving lives. German lives. Human lives. The words came out louder than Silas intended. Harder. Angrier. Lyle's face flushed red. His hands were shaking. His eyes were wet. You're defending them. I'm defending basic human decency. Decency, Silas. They're a woman and two kids who've lost everything. Same as half of Europe. Same as half the world. The war's over. We won. And now we've got a choice. We can keep fighting, keep hating, keep making sure the next generation grows up ready to kill each other, or we can stop. Stop, just like that. Yeah, just like that. Lyle shook his head, stepped back, looked at Silas like he was looking at a stranger. You're making a mistake. Maybe. The village is going to lose their minds when they find out. Let them. Silas, I'm not changing my mind, Lyle. They're staying, at least for now. And if you've got a problem with that, you know where the road is. Silence, long, heavy, painful. Finally, Lyle sighed, deep, tired, defeated. I can't support this. I'm not asking you to. If they find out I knew and didn't say anything, then don't say anything. I have to. One, God, Silas, they're going to come for you. The whole village. They're going to make your life hell. Let them come. Lyle looked at him, really looked, at this man he'd known since they were kids, who'd gone off to war and come back different, harder, quieter, carrying weight nobody else could see, who was now making choices that didn't make sense, that violated every rule, every expectation, every norm. I hope you know what you're doing, Lyle said finally. I don't. Lyle nodded, once, sad, final. He set the basket of bread on the porch railing, turned, walked back to his truck, got in, started the engine, drove away, didn't look back. Silas stood on the porch and watched him disappear down the drive, watched the dust settle, watched the world get a little smaller, a little colder, a little more hostile. Behind him, through the door, he could hear Greta talking to Anna. Quiet, German, reassuring. Klaus started to cry. That thin wail babies make when they're hungry, or wet, or just need comfort. The sounds of life happening inside his house. And Silas knew with absolute certainty. The next week was going to be a test. The village was going to find out. Word would spread, fast. And when they did, there would be consequences. The question was, how bad would they be? The village found out by nightfall. Not because Lyle Hutchins told anyone directly. He didn't have to, didn't need to. Small towns don't work that way. Small towns work like living organisms, like ecosystems. Information spreads through them the way nutrients move through soil, the way water seeps through rock, the way roots spread underground where you can't see them, but they're always there, always growing, always connecting everything to everything else. Invisible, inevitable, fast. By 6 o'clock that evening, 3 people knew. By 7, a dozen. By 8, anyone who mattered had heard some version of the story. Silas Mercer, home from the war, housing Germans in his mother's house. A woman, 2 kids, enemy nationals, living on American soil, eating American food, sleeping under an American roof. The details got twisted in the telling. The way details always do. The way telephone games work. The way truth becomes fiction becomes something in between. By the time the story reached Brennan's bar on Main Street at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night, it had mutated into something uglier. Silas Mercer had lost his mind, shell shock, battle fatigue, combat stress, Whatever the doctors called it when soldiers came home wrong. Broken, dangerous. He was keeping German prisoners, maybe planning something, maybe working with them, and maybe a threat to the community. Someone needed to do something. And at Brennan's bar, surrounded by beer and cigarette smoke and men who'd spent the war working, while others fought, someone decided they would. Rourke Crenshaw was 32 years old. Big, 6'3", 240 pounds. Most of it muscle from 10 years of farm work and loading hay bales and fixing machinery and all the physical labor that built bodies like slabs of granite. He hadn't served. Flat feet. The draft board rejected him in 42. 4F, unfit for military service. Spent the whole war watching other men ship out. Other men fight. Other men come home heroes or come home in boxes or not come home at all. While Rourke stayed in Riverbend, working his uncle's farm, watching the world change without him, watching everyone else get glory while he got left behind. It made him angry, the kind of angry that sits in your chest like hot coals, never quite burning out, never quite cooling down, just waiting for oxygen, for fuel, for an excuse. Tonight, he got his excuse. 11 Germans, his voice carried across the bar, loud enough for half the room to hear, commanding, confident. The voice of someone who expected to be listened to. Mercer killed 11 Krauts over there. Now he's got 3 living in his house. 3, you see the problem? He stood at the bar, surrounded by men, farmers mostly, a few shop owners, veterans mixed in, good men, hardworking men, men who paid their taxes and went to church and believed in America and apple pie and doing the right thing. Men who'd lost brothers, sons, friends, cousins, neighbors. Men who'd sacrificed and bled and died fighting Germans. And now a German was living next door, in American soil, under American protection. It was wrong, obviously wrong, anyone could see that. Couldn't they? Maybe he's just helping them, someone said. Cautious, uncertain, not quite willing to commit. Tom Morrison, 42, farmer, lost his son at Iwo Jima. Marines, 19 years old, died on the beach, never even made it inland. Helping them, Rourke's voice rose, getting louder, more passionate. Tom, your boy died fighting them. My cousin died fighting them. 60 million people died because of them. And Mercer's playing Good Samaritan. The war's over. Is it because last I checked, we won that war? We beat them. We earned the right to not have them living next door. We earned the right to peace. Real peace. Not this. Not harboring the enemy on our own land. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, heads nodding, men looking at each other, finding validation, finding permission. Rourke felt it, the shift, the momentum, like a wave building, like pressure in a boiler waiting to be released. This was working. I'm not saying Mercer's a traitor, he continued, softer now, reasonable, concerned, like a friend worried about a friend. I'm saying he's confused, sick, maybe. War messed him up. We've all heard the stories. Soldiers come home different, broken, not themselves anymore. Nods around the bar, agreement. Everyone had heard the stories. Everyone knew someone who'd come back wrong. So maybe we need to help him. Remind him who his people are. Show him he's got a community here. Show those Germans they're not welcome. What are you suggesting? Someone asked from the back. Rourke took a slow drink of his beer. Let the question hang. Let the tension build. Let them wonder. Let them imagine. I'm suggesting we pay him a visit tonight. Show him we care. Show him this community stands together. Show those Germans that this isn't their home, that they need to leave. A visit, Tom Morrison's voice was skeptical, uncertain. Or something else. Just a visit, just a conversation. Peaceful, democratic, American. We're not animals. We're civilized people. We just want to talk, to make our position clear. Rourke looked around the bar, counting, calculating, reading faces, seeing who was in and who was wavering and who would never agree. 14 men total. Maybe 12 would come, maybe 10. That was enough. Who's with me? Hands went up, slower than Rourke wanted, but they went up 1, 2, 5, 8, 11 men, willing to take a drive, have a conversation, make their feelings known. Perfect. Rourke drained his beer, set the glass down hard on the bar, loud, final, the sound of decision. Let's go remind Silas Mercer what country he lives in. Across the bar, in the corner booth where the light didn't quite reach, where shadows pooled, where men went to drink alone, Hank Kowalski watched and said nothing. They called him Ironside. Stupid nickname. But it stuck. The way nicknames do. The way things stick to you whether you want them to or not. Hank was 58, owned the bar, lived in the apartment above it, hadn't left Riverbend in 40 years. Not since he came back from France in 1918. Not since the Argonne. Not since the day a German shell landed 3 feet from his foxhole and took his left leg below the knee. He'd learned to walk again. Learned to work. Learned to live with the wooden leg. Learned to joke about it. Ironside. Like he was tough, unbreakable, like losing a leg was no big deal. But he'd never learned to forget. Never learned to stop dreaming about the Argonne, about the mud, about the screaming, about what war looked like, what it smelled like, what it did to young men who thought they were invincible. Now he watched Rourke Crenshaw, 32 years old, never saw combat, never fired a shot in anger, never had to decide whether to kill or be killed, leading 11 men out the door, leading them to do something stupid, something they'd regret, something that would change them. Hank knew where this was going, knew it the way old soldiers know things, the way pattern recognition works when you've seen the pattern before. He also knew he wasn't going to stop it. Not yet, not directly, but he reached under the bar, pulled out a piece of paper, a pencil, wrote a note, quick, messy, urgent, folded it, called his nephew over. Kid worked in the kitchen, 14 years old, good kid. Take this to Doc Voss, fast, run, don't stop. The kid looked at the note, curious. What is it? Just go, now. The kid went, smart enough not to argue, smart enough to recognize urgency when he heard it. Hank poured himself a drink. Bourbon. Neat. The good stuff he kept under the bar for himself. And waited. Because sometimes all you can do is warn people. Sometimes all you can do is give them a chance. The rest is up to them. Leonard Voss was eating dinner when the knock came. Pork chops, mashed potatoes, green beans from the garden his wife canned last summer. The kind of meal that made you forget there'd ever been a war. The kind that made you believe the world was normal and safe and predictable. Until someone knocked on your door at 9:30 at night. Leonard opened it, found a kid, breathing hard, face flushed, eyes wide. Doc, Mr. Kowalski sent this, said it's urgent. Handed him the note, crumpled. Hastily written. Leonard unfolded it. Read. His face went pale. Rourke plus 11 men, going to Mercer Farm, now. Think they're just talking. But bring your bag. Hank, when did they leave? 10 minutes ago, maybe less. How many? 11. 12, I didn't count good. They had tools, axe handles, stuff like that. Tools, weapons, same difference when you're a mob. Leonard was already moving, back into the house, grabbing his coat, his medical bag. The bag he'd carried through France and Belgium. The bag that saved lives when bullets didn't care about Geneva Conventions or Red Cross neutrality. Where are you going? His wife called from the dining room. Mercer Farm. At this hour, Leonard, there's going to be trouble. What kind of trouble? But he was already out the door, running. His truck was parked on the street. Old Ford, temperamental. Needed 3 tries to start on cold mornings. It started on the 2nd try tonight. Leonard drove fast. Faster than he should on these roads. Faster than was safe. But he'd been a medic with the 101st Airborne. He knew what mobs did. What angry men did when they thought they had righteousness on their side. When they convinced themselves that violence was justified. That hate was holy. He'd seen it in France, in Germany, in the camps after liberation. Good men doing terrible things because someone convinced them it was necessary. He wasn't going to let it happen here. Not in Riverbend, not to Silas Mercer. The farm was 20 minutes away at normal speed. Leonard made it in 12. Silas heard the truck before he saw it. Engine, so loud. Coming fast. Too fast for a casual visit. He was on the porch, couldn't sleep, too much thinking, too many memories, too many faces of the dead looking at him when he closed his eyes. So he sat in his father's old chair, the one that creaked. That smelled like pipe tobacco even though his father had been dead 3 years. That faced the road, watching, waiting, for something he couldn't name. The truck came up the drive. Headlights cutting through the dark, bright, harsh, blinding, stopped hard. Gravel crunching, dust rising. Doc Voss jumped out before the engine fully stopped. Moved fast. Urgent. Silas. One word, but the way he said it, The tone, the urgency, the fear underneath. Silas was down the porch steps before Doc finished closing his truck door. What happened? They're coming. Rourke Crenshaw and about 11 men, maybe more, from the bar. They left 10-15 minutes ago. Could be here any second. Ice settled in Silas's stomach, cold, heavy, spreading. What do they want? What do you think they know about the Germans? They're coming too. I don't know. Scare them, remove them, make a point, something. Remove them how? Doc didn't answer. Didn't need to. The silence said everything. Silas turned, looked at the house. Inside, through the window, he could see Greta putting Anna to bed, singing that German lullaby, the one about stars, about night, about safety. Klaus was already asleep in his little basket, small, peaceful, unaware. They had no idea what was coming. You need to get them out, Doc said, voice urgent, insistent. Hide them. Take them somewhere. Leave. Now. Before they get here. No. Silas. No. This is my land. My house. They want to come here, they can come, but I'm not running, and I'm not making them run either. You can't fight 11 men, maybe more. Watch me. Doc grabbed his arm, tight, desperate. I was a medic. 4 years. France, Belgium, Germany. I've seen what happens when soldiers fight civilians. It doesn't end clean. People get hurt. People die. Is that what you want? You want to kill your neighbors. You want them to kill you. Silas looked at him. At this man who'd spent 4 years patching up wounded soldiers, who knew exactly what violence looked like up close, what it smelled like, what it sounded like, what it cost. What I want is for them to leave us alone. That's not going to happen. Not tonight, maybe not ever. Then I guess we're about to have a problem. The front door opened. Greta stood there, still in her work dress, hair tied back, face calm but eyes alert. Silas, what is wrong? Nothing. Go back inside. Do not lie. I hear your voices. Something is wrong. Tell me. Silas hesitated. Part of him wanted to protect her, to shield her, to handle this without involving her. But she'd survived Berlin, survived the bombing, survived the fall, survived things he couldn't imagine. She deserved the truth. There are men coming from town. They're not happy you're here. They might try to. They might make you leave. Greta's face didn't change, didn't show surprise, didn't show fear, just acceptance, like she'd expected this, like she'd been waiting for it. How many at 11, maybe more? When soon, any minute. She nodded, once, sharp, decisive, military. We go, we pack, we leave now. Before they come, take children. Run. Is better this way. No, Silas, no, you're not leaving, you're not running, not from them, not from anyone. This is not your fight. It is now. Greta stared at him, those pale blue eyes searching, trying to understand, trying to figure out why this American soldier would risk everything for 3 Germans he barely knew. Why you do this? We are nothing to you. You're under my roof, that makes it my business. Your husband saved my life. That makes it my responsibility. And even if none of that was true, even if you were complete strangers, you're people, and people deserve protection. That's enough. Greta's jaw tightened. Her eyes went bright, wet, but she didn't let the tears fall. German widows don't cry where Americans can see. You are stubborn, man, she said quietly. Yeah, I've been told. She turned, went back inside. Silas thought she was going to pack anyway. Get the kids ready to run. Ignore him. But 2 minutes later, she came back out, wearing different clothes, trousers, work shirt, boots, practical, functional, and carrying a pistol. Browning high power. 9mm. Black, worn, well-maintained. Silas stared. Where the hell did you get that? Berlin Field Hospital. Wehrmacht give to all medical staff. For protection from looters, from Soviets, from anyone who tried to hurt patients. Her voice was flat, factual. Like this was normal. Like every nurse carried a gun. You know how to use it. Greta's expression didn't change. She pulled back the slide, checked the chamber, released the magazine, counted rounds, slapped it back in, chambered around, set the safety, all in 5 seconds. Smooth, professional, practiced. I kill 3 men in Berlin, Soviet soldiers. They try to hurt nurses, try to take supplies. I shoot them. All 3, close range. I do not miss. She said it the way you'd describe making breakfast. matter of fact, empty of emotion. Like killing was just another thing that happened during wars, another skill you learned, another line you crossed. Doc Voss breathed something that might have been a prayer or a curse. Greta looked at Silas. If they come, I fight. I protect my children. You understand, did Greta they on them? You understand? Silas nodded slowly. Yeah, I understand. Good. She moved to check the windows, the sight lines, the approaches, tactical, military, the way someone who'd defended a field hospital would think. I have rifle, Silas said. M1 Garand, upstairs, 8 rounds, semi-automatic. You get it. You stay with the kids. Yes. Silas went inside, took the stairs 2 at a time. His rifle was under the bed, wrapped in oilcloth. He'd cleaned it before discharge. Old habit. Soldiers never trust a dirty weapon. Never know when you might need it. He unwrapped it, checked it. The metal was cold. Solid. Familiar. The weight of it. The balance. The feel of the stock against his shoulder. 8 rounds in an en-bloc clip. The distinctive ping when it ejected. The sound of empty. The sound that could get you killed if you weren't paying attention. He loaded it, grabbed extra ammunition. 30 rounds total. More than he should need. Hopefully more than he'd need. He came back downstairs, found Greta in the kitchen, talking to Anna. Quiet, German, fast. Anna nodded, serious. Too serious for 7. She picked up Klaus from his basket, held him carefully, the way she'd been taught. I tell her to go upstairs, Greta said. Hide under bed with Klaus, lock door. No matter what she hears, she stays there, until I come get her. Good. Anna looked at Silas. Those 2 old eyes, seeing too much, understanding too much. You protect Mama. Yes. Promise, promise. 'Kay, I go now. She went upstairs. Silas heard the bedroom door close, the lock turn, the creak of floorboards as she crawled under the bed. Doc Voss stood in the doorway, looking between them, at the rifle in Silas's hands, the pistol in Greta's, the determination on both their faces. You 2 are insane, he said. Probably, Silas agreed. I should leave before they get here. If they see my truck, they'll know someone warned us. Yeah, you should go. This isn't your fight. And it's yours. Yeah, it is. Doc hesitated, looked like he wanted to argue, wanted to stay, wanted to do something. But he had a wife, a practice, patients who needed him, a life that didn't include getting killed by a mob. If anyone gets hurt, Doc said finally, you come get me. I don't care what time it is. I don't care if it's the middle of the night. You come get me. You understand. Understood. Doc left. His truck started, pulled away, taillights disappearing down the drive, leaving Silas and Greta alone, on the porch, waiting. The night was cold. Stars out. No moon yet. The darkness that comes before moonrise. The darkness that hides things. Quiet except for the wind in the trees, the creak of branches, the small sounds of night, and the distant sound of engines. Getting closer. Multiple vehicles, coming fast. Silas's hand tightened on his rifle. His heart was steady, calm, the way it got before combat, the way training kicked in and adrenaline sharpened everything without clouding it. Beside him, Greta checked her pistol one more time. Safety off now, finger alongside the trigger guard. Not on the trigger, not yet, but ready. They didn't speak, didn't need to, just stood there side by side. 2 people who'd survived wars preparing to face one more battle, hoping it wouldn't come to shooting, knowing it might. And the engines got louder. The first week was uncomfortable in the way everything new and wrong is uncomfortable, like wearing someone else's boots. It technically functions but feels strange at every step. Silas took the small bedroom upstairs, the one that had been his as a child. Before the war, before the world changed, the bed was narrow, single mattress. The springs creaked when he lay down. The ceiling had a water stain from where the roof used to leak, but it was fixed now. Greta had fixed it, before he came home, before she knew who owned this house or whether they'd ever return. She'd fix things because that's what you do when you have a place to live and you want to keep it. You maintain, you repair. You make it better because better means it lasts longer. Greta and the children took the main bedroom and on the ground floor. His parents' old ballroom, big bed, fireplace, close to the kitchen in case Klaus needed something in the night, in case they needed to run, because they were always ready to run. Silas could see it in the way they lived. bags packed, important things near the door, light sleeping, quick movements. People who'd learned that safety was temporary and you had to be ready to move when it ended. They stayed out of each other's way, mostly. Silas woke before dawn, every morning, like clockwork. 5:30, couldn't sleep past it no matter how hard he tried. The army had trained it into him. Reveille, formation, the day started early whether you wanted it to or not. And now his body wouldn't let him forget, wouldn't let him rest. Woke him up every morning in the dark, in the cold, and made him remember that soldiers don't sleep in. Soldiers stay alert. Soldiers survive. But Greta woke earlier. He'd come downstairs at dawn and find her already working, sharpening kitchen knives, mending clothes, feeding Klaus, preparing breakfast, doing the 1,000 small tasks that keeping a household alive required. She never made conversation, neither did he. They moved around each other like two cats sharing territory by pretending the other one didn't exist. Parallel lines, never touching, never intersecting. It worked, for about 3 days. Then Anna decided she'd had enough of silence. Why you breathe so loud when you sleep? Silas was drinking his morning coffee. Black, strong, the way he liked it, the way they made it in the army, hot enough to burn, bitter enough to wake you up. No sugar, no cream, just coffee and willpower. He choked, coughed, set the cup down hard enough to slosh. What? Anna stood in the doorway to the kitchen, hair uncombed, still in her nightdress, bare feet on the cold floor, looking at him with those two serious eyes that made her look older than 7. You breathe loud, at night, like wind through cave. She made a sound, a sort of rattling wheeze, deep in her throat. Surprisingly accurate. It was snoring. She was imitating his snoring. I don't snore, Silas said. Yes, you do, very loud, like bear or pig, or I do not know American animal that makes loud sleep noise. But you sound like it. That's called snoring. Adults do it. Mama not snore. Klaus not snore. Only you snore. Maybe you sick. Maybe you have curse from war. Soldier curses. Ghost following you. Making you breathe wrong. Silas set down his coffee cup carefully. Counted to 5 in his head. Reminded himself that this was a child. A 7-year-old child. Who'd been through hell and was making conversation the only way she knew how. By asking questions that made him want to throw himself out a window. I'm not cursed, he said firmly. I just snore. It's normal. Lots of people snore. If lots of people do it, why Mama not do it? Because not everyone snores. Some people do, some people don't. I'm one of the ones who does. So is not normal, is special. Special you breathing. Look, can we not have this conversation before I finished my coffee? Anna considered this seriously, tilted her head, thought about it like it was a genuine philosophical question. Okay, we have after coffee. How about we don't have it at all? But then you never know if cursed or just special breathing. Is important to know difference. One needs doctor, other needs priest. I don't need either. How you know if you do not check Annalise? Greta's voice cut through the kitchen like a blade. Sharp, quiet, absolute. The voice that meant, stop talking right now or there will be consequences. Anna's mouth snapped shut, mid-word, like someone had flipped a switch. She looked at her mother. Greta stood in the doorway to the bedroom, Klaus on her hip, hair tied back, already dressed for the day, even though the sun wasn't up yet. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were hard. She said something in German. 3 words, fast, clipped, the tone that meant business. Anna's shoulders slumped. Yes, Mama. She turned and scurried away, back to the bedroom. Properly chastised, but not before Silas caught the grin on her face. Small, quick, there and gone. She wasn't asking because she was curious. She was testing. Seeing how far she could push the strange American before he pushed back. Seeing if he was safe, if he was dangerous, if he was someone they could trust or someone they needed to fear. Smart kid. Greta watched her daughter disappear, then looked at Silas. I am sorry, she is. Children do not understand boundaries. It's fine. It is not fine. She should not bother you, especially before coffee. I will speak with her. Really, it's fine. I've been called worse things than a loud breather. Greta's mouth twitched. Almost a smile, the corners lifting slightly before she caught herself and flattened them back down. Then it was gone. Still, I will speak with her. She must learn manners. American manners. Different than German manners. but still important. Don't let her ask questions. Better than sitting in silence pretending we don't exist. Greta looked at him for a long moment, like she was trying to figure out if he meant it, if this was permission or a trap, if saying the wrong thing would get them thrown out. Finally, she nodded, once. Small. Coffee's ready, if you want more. Thanks. She turned to go, then stopped, hand on the doorframe, not looking at him. Silas. It was the first time she'd used his name, the first time she'd called him anything other than sir or you. Yeah, you do snore, very loud, like bear, as Anna says. But I think is not curse. I think it's just how you sleep, how soldiers sleep, never fully resting, always listening, even in dreams. And then she did smile, just a little, just for a second, before she turned and walked away. On the fifth day, Silas found Anna in his mother's garden. It was mid-morning, frost still on the ground, October turning into November. The kind of cold that bites the back of your throat when you breathe, that makes your fingers numb, that promises winter is coming and it won't be gentle. Anna stood in the middle of the garden bed, wearing a coat too big for her, probably Greta's. The sleeves hung past her hands. The hem dragged in the dirt. She was holding a small leather pouch. Brown, worn, familiar. Silas stopped walking, 30 feet away, just stopped and stared. What are you doing? His voice came out sharper than he meant. Anna looked up, no guilt in her expression, no shame, just calm, like this was perfectly normal. Planting, like this should be obvious. Like what else would you be doing in a garden with a pouch of seeds? Planting what? She opened the pouch, held it out so he could see. Inside, seeds, apple seeds specifically, the seeds from his mother's apple trees, the old orchard on the far edge of the property, the trees his grandfather had planted, that his father had maintained, that his mother had harvested every fall, the seeds Silas had collected before he shipped out, put in a leather pouch his mother made, kept in his rucksack through Normandy and Bastogne and Berlin and all the way home. The last piece of his mother he had left, the last living thing that connected him to before. To the world that existed before the war destroyed everything. His heart did something complicated in his chest, squeezed, twisted, stopped and started and couldn't decide which. Where did you get those? His voice came out rough, dangerous, the voice he'd used on German soldiers, on enemies, on people who took things that weren't theirs. Anna blinked, confused by his tone, not scared, just confused. Your room, under bed. I find them yesterday when looking for, you went through my things. Yes, Mama says things that hide want to be found. Is philosophy, German philosophy, things you keep hidden in dark places you keep because you cannot let go. But keeping in dark means they cannot grow. So finding them and bringing to light is helping, is kindness. She said it so simply, so innocently, like breaking into someone's room and going through their personal belongings was an act of charity. 7 years old and already a philosopher, or a burglar. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. Those are mine, Silas said. They're important. You can't just take them. I not take, I borrow. To plant, seeds cannot stay in bag forever. Seeds must be in ground or they forget how to grow. Become just dead things in leather bag. Waste. Tragedy. I was waiting for the right time to plant them. Anna tilted her head, studying him, those old eyes, that serious expression. Time is now time. Mama says now time is only time that matters. Past time is just memory. Cannot change. Future time is just worry. Cannot control. Now time is when planting happens, when living happens, when doing happens. She was 7 years old. 7. And she was talking like someone who'd seen the world end and learned that waiting for the perfect moment meant missing every moment. Silas opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out, because she was right. The logic was childish and simple, and completely devastatingly correct. He'd been carrying these seeds for 2 years, across an ocean, through a war, all the way home, telling himself he was waiting for the right time, the perfect time, the time when things were settled and safe and he could plant them properly. But really he was just afraid. Afraid that planting meant accepting this was home now. This was life now. The past wasn't coming back no matter how tightly he held on to its pieces. Afraid that these seeds wouldn't grow, that they'd die in the ground and he'd lose this last connection to his mother, this last piece of before. afraid of letting go. Do you even know how to plant apple seeds? Silas asked. Voice softer now, quieter. Anna's face lit up. Actual joy, pure, unfiltered. The first real smile he'd seen from her. No, but you can teach. Teaching is sharing knowledge. Sharing knowledge makes families stronger, makes tribes survive, is important. We're not family. The words came out before Silas could stop them. Harsh, cutting, true but cruel. Anna's smile faded a little, but didn't disappear completely. Dimmed, but didn't die. Mama says family is people who choose to stay. We stay. You let us stay. Is small family, but still counts, still real. She held out the pouch to him. Please teach, I want to learn. Want to make trees, trees that give apples. Apples that feed people, people like us, people who are hungry. Silas looked at this kid, this 7-year-old German refugee kid holding his mother's apple seeds, standing in his mother's garden, asking him to teach her how to plant hope in frozen ground. And he realized, standing there in the cold November morning, he realized he couldn't say no, couldn't refuse, because saying no meant holding on, and holding on meant staying broken. And staying broken meant the war won, meant they won. The people who started it, the people who destroyed everything, the people who turned the world into ash and expected everyone to stay there forever. Fine, Silas heard himself say, I'll teach you, but you do exactly what I say. Exactly. Understood. Anna nodded so hard her whole body moved. Yes, I do exactly. I am good student. Best student. Mama says I learn fast like smart bird, eagle of learning. Despite everything, despite the cold and the fear and the weight of 2 years of carrying these seeds, Silas almost smiled. Almost. Come on then, let's plant some trees. They spent the next hour in the garden, Silas showing Anna how deep to dig, 6 inches, not too deep or the seed drowns, not too shallow or it freezes, how to space them, 15 feet apart, room for roots, room for branches, room to grow into something that lasts, how to mark where each one went, sticks, small markers, so you didn't forget and step on them later. So you knew where to look for the first green shoots in spring, how to water, not too much, just enough, just a prayer and a hope that nature would do the rest, and how to hope without expecting, how to plant knowing that half might not germinate, that birds might eat some, that frost might kill others, that nature was cruel and random and didn't care about your hopes. But you planted anyway. Because planting was an act of faith, of defiance, of saying, I believe in tomorrow, even though yesterday destroyed everything. Anna listened, really listened, absorbed every word like she was afraid she'd forget. Like this information was treasure and she needed to hoard every piece. She asked questions, smart questions. How do you know when soil is good? How much water is too much? What if frost comes before seeds grow? And Silas answered, patiently, more patiently than he'd been with anyone in years. Because teaching was easier than remembering, easier than thinking about where these seeds came from, who planted the original trees, who harvested them every fall and made pies and preserves and kept the family fed through long winters. Easier than grief. Greta watched from the kitchen window. Silas could feel her eyes on them, watching, assessing, wondering what this meant. If this was acceptance or just temporary kindness before he changed his mind and made them leave. When they finished planting the last seed, Anna stood up, brushed dirt off her hands, looked at the garden, at the small markers showing where each seed lay buried. Now we wait, she said, simply, factually. Now we wait. How long? Spring? April? May? If they're going to grow, that's when we'll see. That is long time. Yeah, it is. Anna looked at him, those serious eyes, that old soul in a young body. Thank you for teaching, for letting me plant, for trusting me with important things. Something cracked inside Silas's chest. Not broke, just cracked. The way ice cracks in spring thaw, the first sign that frozen things can melt, that winter doesn't last forever. You're welcome. We take care of them, me and Mama. We water, we watch, we make sure they grow. This is our job now, our responsibility. We are guardians of future apples. She said it so seriously, like it was a sacred duty, like these apple trees mattered more than anything. Maybe they did. Maybe hope matters more than anything when you've lost everything else. Silas stood up, brushed dirt off his knees, looked at the garden, at his mother's garden, where his mother used to work, where she used to sing while she planted, where she used to talk to the plants like they could hear her. And maybe they could. Maybe plants know when they're loved, when they're tended, when someone cares whether they live or die. Come on, Silas said. Let's wash up. Your mother probably has lunch ready. Mama makes good soup, potato soup, very thick, very warm. You will like. I'm sure I will. They walk back to the house together. Side by side, not quite comfortable, but not quite strangers anymore either. Something in between, something undefined, something that might become family if given enough time. Behind them in the cold November garden, 12 apple seeds lay buried, waiting for spring, waiting to become trees, waiting to bear fruit, waiting to prove that broken things can heal, that destroyed things can rebuild. That hope is worth planting even in frozen ground. The village found out on day 6, not because anyone told them. Small towns don't work that way. Small towns operate on osmosis. Information spreads through the air like pollen, invisible but everywhere. You don't notice it until suddenly everyone knows and nobody remembers who said it first. By the time Silas realized people were talking, it was already too late to control the narrative. Too late to explain. Too late to do anything except deal with the consequences. Lyle Hutchins arrived just before noon, driving his truck up the long driveway, parking in front of the house, sitting there for a full minute before getting out, like he was building up courage, or deciding whether this was really necessary, or praying he was wrong about what he'd heard. Silas saw him from the upstairs window, recognized the truck, felt his stomach drop. Lyle was a good man, fair, honest, hardworking, the kind of neighbor you wanted, the kind who helped with harvests and lent tools and showed up when your barn needed raising. He was also a man who'd lost his younger brother at Omaha Beach. First wave, 22 years old, dead on the sand before he made it 20 feet from the landing craft. Lyle had gotten the telegram in June of '44, carried it in his pocket for 6 months, couldn't bring himself to throw it away, couldn't bring himself to accept it was real. And now he was here, looking at Silas's house, where rumors said Germans were living. Silas went downstairs, met him at the door before he could knock. Lyle, Silas, they shook hands, firm, brief, the handshake of men who'd known each other their whole lives but suddenly weren't sure what they were anymore. Lyle was 48, broad shoulders from farm work, calloused hands, sun-weathered face, good man, salt of the earth. All the things people say about Midwestern farmers who work hard and ask little and endure what life throws at them. Heard you were back, Lyle said. Been meaning to stop by. Dorothy made bread. She says welcome home. He held out a basket, covered with a cloth, the smell of fresh bread coming from underneath. Tell her thanks. Will do. Lyle's eyes drifted past Silas, into the house, searching, looking for confirmation of what he'd heard, hoping he wouldn't find it. And that's when Anna appeared. She ducked under Silas's arm to see who was visiting. Curious, unafraid, all blonde hair and pale skin, and very obviously not American. Very obviously German. Lyle's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, recognition, understanding, horror. Silas. His voice was barely a whisper. Strangled, like someone had their hands around his throat. Is that a kid? Yes. A German kid? Yes. Lyle took a step back. Then another. The basket of bread hung forgotten in his hand. Shock written across his face like someone had slapped him. Silas, what have you done? Anna tilted her head, studying Lyle the way you'd study a bug under glass. Curious, analytical, not scared. He have big fear face, she observed in careful English. Slow, deliberate, proud of her pronunciation. Like dog when thunder comes, all tense and shaking. Greta appeared behind Anna, moved fast, quiet. Pulled her daughter back gently but firmly. Inside Liebling, now. But I want to pow, now. Anna went, but kept watching through the window, face pressed against the glass, breath fogging it up. Greta met Lyle's eyes, straightened her spine, lifted her chin, dignified even in poverty, proud even in fear. Good afternoon, she said carefully, accented but clear, polite. The kind of politeness that costs something when you know you're not wanted. Lyle's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. He looked like a fish drowning in air. He turned to Silas, eyes wide, disbelieving. That's a German woman. In your house. In your mother's house. Her name is Greta. I don't care what her name is. She's German. They're German. What the hell are they doing in your house? Silas felt something cold settle in his stomach. Knew this moment was coming. Had been dreading it. Had hoped it would come later, after he figured out what he was doing. After he understood it himself. But here it was, day 6, the reckoning. They needed a place to stay, Silas said. So you're, what, running a boarding house for Krauts now? Is that it? You come home from the war and decide to house the enemy. The word hung in the air like smoke. Krauts, the slur, the insult. The word that reduced people to a category. To a thing you could hate without thinking about individuals. Silas's jaw tightened. They're refugees, widow and 2 kids. They've got nowhere else to go. I don't give a damn if she's the widow of Jesus Christ himself. She's German. They killed my brother Silas. They killed thousands of our brothers. 60,000 American boys dead. And you're giving them shelter. You're giving them our homes. She's not the one who killed them. She's one of them. Same country, same people, same enemy. She's a civilian. She's the enemy. The war's over, Lyle. Zit, Lyle's voice rose, angry now, really angry. Is it really because, last I checked, German refugees moving into American homes? Sounds a hell of a lot like invasion to me. Sounds like they're still fighting, still taking, still destroying what's ours. Silas stepped out onto the porch, closed the door behind him, putting himself between Lyle and the house, between this anger and the people inside. She's not invading, she's surviving. There's a difference. By stealing your house, by taking advantage of you, Silas, do you hear yourself? These people, their country, their army killed 60 million people. My brother was one of them. Your mother died because of the stress of you being over there fighting them. And now you're playing house with the enemy. Silas's hands curled into fists, anger rising, hot and sharp and clean. My mother died of a heart attack. Because she was terrified you'd never come home. Because of the war. Because of them. Greta didn't start the war. She's German, close enough. She was a nurse in a hospital, saving lives, not taking them. German lives. Human lives. Lyle's face flushed red, veins standing out on his neck, breathing hard. You're defending them? You're actually defending them. I'm defending basic human decency. There's a difference. Decency, Silas, there. He stopped, took a breath, tried again. Calmer, but no less intense. They're the reason my brother is dead. They're the reason tens of thousands of families are broken. They're the reason the world burned for 6 years. And you think letting them live here is decency? I think they're people who've lost everything trying to survive. Same as everyone else. Same as us. They're not the same as us. They're Germans. They're the enemy. The war's over. Not for those of us who lost someone. The war doesn't end just because the shooting stops. It ends when we get justice. When we get something, anything that makes it worth what we lost. And terrorizing a woman and 2 kids is justice. It's making sure they know they're not welcome. Making sure they understand there are consequences. For being born in the wrong country, for speaking the wrong language, for surviving when others didn't. Lyle shook his head, stepped back, looking at Silas like he didn't recognize him. Like the man standing in front of him was a stranger wearing a familiar face. You've changed. The war changed you, made you soft, made you forget who you are, who your people are. Maybe it did. Maybe I needed changing. I can't support this. I'm not asking you to. The village needs to know. People need to know what you're doing here. Then tell them. Silas, I'm not changing my mind, Lyle. They're staying, at least for now. And if that makes me a traitor in your eyes, then I guess I'm a traitor. But I owe her husband a debt, and I pay my debts. Lyle stared at him, long, hard, searching for something, some sign of the Silas he used to know, the kid who grew up 3 farms over, who helped with harvests, who enlisted the same day Lyle's brother did. Finally, Lyle sighed, deep, tired, defeated. I hope you know what you're doing. I don't, but I'm doing it anyway. Lyle set the basket of bread on the porch railing, turned, walked back to his truck, stopped with his hand on the door. They're going to come for you, Silas, when they find out, and they will find out. They're going to come here, and I don't know if I can stop them. Then don't try. Just when it happens, remember that I made this choice, not them. They didn't ask for this, I offered. Lyle nodded once, got in his truck, started it, drove away without looking back. Silas stood on the porch and watched him disappear down the driveway. Watched the dust settle. Watched the world stay exactly the same even though everything had changed. Behind him through the door, he could hear Anna asking Greta something in German. Greta's quiet answer. Klaus starting to fuss. The sounds of life happening inside his house. And Silas knew with absolute certainty. The next 2 weeks were going to be a test. The village was going to find out. If they didn't know already. And when they did, when the news spread, when the anger built, there would be consequences. The village found out by nightfall, not because Lyle told anyone directly, but because he went to the general store, and the clerk asked how Silas was doing, and Lyle said fine, and the clerk asked if Silas needed anything, and Lyle said no, he's got company, and the clerk asked what kind of company, and Lyle told him. By 6 o'clock that evening, 3 people knew. By 7, a dozen. By 8, anyone who mattered had heard some version of the story. Silas Mercer, home from the war, housing Germans in his mother's house. A woman, 2 children, enemy nationals, living on American soil, eating American food, sleeping under an American roof. The details got twisted in the telling, the way details always do when anger gets involved, when people want to be outraged and facts are inconvenient. By the time the story reached Brennan's Tavern on Main Street, it had mutated into something uglier. Silas Mercer had lost his mind, shell shock, battle fatigue, whatever the doctors called it when soldiers came home wrong, came home broken, came home dangerous. He was keeping German prisoners, maybe planning something, maybe working with them, maybe a spy, maybe a traitor. Someone needed to do something, and at Brennan's Tavern, 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night, someone decided they would. Rourke Crenshaw was 32 years old, big, 6'3", 240 pounds. Most of it muscle from 10 years of farm work and a temper that needed somewhere to go. He hadn't served. Flat feet. The draft board rejected him in 1942. 4F, unfit for duty. Spent the whole war watching other men ship out, other men fight, other men come home heroes with medals and stories and the respect that comes from having been there, having done it, having survived. While Rourke stayed in Riverbend, working his uncle's farm, watching the world change without him, watching parades for men who fought while he planted corn and harvested wheat and did nothing that mattered. It made him angry, the kind of angry that sits in your chest like hot coals, never quite burning out, just waiting for oxygen, for fuel, for a reason to ignite. Tonight, he got his reason. 11 Germans, Rourke said, loud enough for half the bar to hear, voice carrying, commanding. The voice of someone who needed to be heard. Mercer killed 11 Krauts over there. Decorated for it. Bronze Star, Purple Heart. Now he's got 3 living in his house. You see the problem. He stood at the bar, surrounded by men, farmers mostly, shop owners, a few veterans, good men, hard-working men, men who'd sacrificed, who'd lost, men who'd won a war and expected to come home to peace, not German refugees in their neighbor's house. Maybe he's just helping them, someone said. Tom Morrison, 42, lost his son at Iwo Jima, still wore black sometimes even though it had been over a year. Helping them, Rourke's voice rose, incredulous, mocking. Tom, your boy died fighting them. My cousin died fighting them. 60,000 Americans dead because of them. And Mercer's playing Good Samaritan. The war's over. Is it because last I checked we won that war? We beat them. We earned the right to not have them living next door. We earned the right to our own country, our own homes, our own peace. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, men nodding, looking at each other, building momentum, building consensus. This was working. Rourke could feel it, the shift, the energy, the anger finding direction. I'm not saying Mercer's a traitor, Rourke continued, softer now. Reasonable? The voice of someone just trying to be fair. I'm saying he's confused, sick maybe. War messed him up. We've all heard the stories. Soldiers come home different, come home broken. Need help, need guidance. More nods, more agreement. So maybe we need to help him. Remind him who his people are. Remind those Germans they're not welcome here, that there are consequences, that this is our country and they don't get to just move in, take over, destroy what we built. What are you suggesting? Someone asked from the back. Cautious, uncertain. Rourke took a slow drink of his beer. Let the question hang. Let the tension build. Let them come to the conclusion themselves so it felt like their idea and not his. I'm suggesting we pay him a visit. Tonight, show him we care. Show them they need to leave. Peaceful, democratic, American. A visit. Tom Morrison's voice was skeptical, wary, or something else. Just a visit, just a conversation, just a reminder that some things aren't acceptable. Some lines don't get crossed. Some battles don't end just because the shooting stops. Rourke looked around the bar, counting, assessing. 14 men, maybe 12 would come. That was enough. More than enough. Strength in numbers, show of force. Make them understand this was serious. Who's with me? Hands went up, slower than Rourke wanted.